Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Thank you so much for coming. In Startup Grind, we normally want to know where you come from. Obviously, we've heard rumors that you're born in Zambia. If you can just confirm that, so you can just tell us a bit about yourself.
Certainly, and thank you for the invite. I was born in Lusaka, in the what's now the UTH, and I moved up to Ndola when I was young. My parents had a job up there, and I ended up sort of living my earlier life in Ndola. It's true, I went to school there. I went to a government school called Ndola Primary School. I think it's now called Ndola Basic. And from there, just 10 years in Ndola. My father's job took him around the country. Eventually we came back to Lusaka, and I transferred then to international school where I did the rest of my schooling. So yeah, I did grow up in Zambia indeed, yes.
Awesome. UTH, huh? After you graduated from the international school, what did you do? Did you work? Did you get
So what happened was, I was at international school, and in those days, O-levels were like sort of the limit in the schools, and my parents wanted me to go on and study further, so I went off to the UK to do A-levels. I was there for 2 years. But at the end of A-levels, I took a very conscious decision that I wasn't going down the path that I wanted to go down, and I felt that there was something else I could be doing. So at 18 I came back to Zambia, and I got a job. I started working. I gave up the opportunity to go to university, which I think disappointed my parents, and I'm sure anybody who's got children, if my children had done the same, I'm sure I would have been disappointed. But I chose a route that I thought, better suited me. I always felt that I had some entrepreneurial skills. I just had to figure out how I was going to get them to come out. So I started working. I worked on Cairo Road in a motor spares store. I learned a lot about the motor trade. And I stayed with that company for quite a few years, and I rose up into management and eventually became the CEO of the company. And then, this was right through the 80s. I know things in Zambia today are not very good economically, but let me tell you, it's nothing like it was in the 80s. The 80s were a really, really difficult period of time. So anyway, I rose up to the 80s, and in the early 90s, multi-party democracy came along, and the economy began to change very rapidly, and it opened up a lot of new opportunities. So I left in the early 90s and went on my own into business. I learned a lot working for somebody else, and I thought it was time to do something for myself.
So what was your first business? What did you venture into?
Along the way, I did many things. My first series, when I left, I had this. We had a family farm in Chisamba, and one of my dreams was to build a hotel or a lodge, I should say, a small game lodge, to sort of supplement the income of the farm, and that's exactly what we started doing. We built a little lodge called Chisamba Safari Lodge, and we opened to business in about 1997. It was the first time for me to do this, and we opened, and we ran it for about 3 years. And eventually we felt that unless we did something more than run this lodge, it wasn't going to be successful. So we thought we had to take on a franchise, and we went out and did a deal with Protea, and we franchised it under the Protea brand. This little lodge in Chisamba. And Protea is this massive company. It's probably the biggest hospitality company in South Africa, and we did a deal with them to put their name on our property, with our management and with our own management to run the place. And that was really a big change for us. Things began to change after that, because all of a sudden that gave us access to a global booking system. If you're going to be in the hospitality industry, one of the things you need is access to a global booking system, so that you can attract business from within and all over the world as well. So if you can get access to a global distribution system, it makes a big impact on your business. And that was the reason we needed a franchise in it. And from there it began to change for us. And began to develop the Protea brand in Zambia. About 2003, we built our second hotel in Chingola. And in Chingola, we opened the hotel on the same day that Anglo-American announced that they were pulling out from the Copperbelt. So Chingola had been this, Anglo-American had bought the mine in Chingola, KCM, and they were running it, and Chingola was this really hive of activity, and there was a big shortage of accommodation up there. So we thought we were in the right place at the right time. We built a nice hotel there, and the day we opened the door, they announced that they were closing or pulling out from the mine. So from day number one, there was no business. I think we had, in the hotel, we averaged about 2% occupancy for the first 3 years. I mean, we actually really bled in that hotel. I mean, it was very, very challenging. So we were stuck with a hotel. We had banks to pay, we had loans to service, we had staff, you know, and we had to figure out how to meet all our commitments in these very adverse conditions. We looked at selling it, nobody wanted to buy it, we tried to convert it in for other uses, we couldn't get anybody interested. So we just had to stick with what we had, and we had to finance it from our resources, which put a strain on other parts of our business. And eventually, after about 3 years, you know, business started to come back, and we eventually began to do better up there. And in the end, I mean, it hasn't been a bad hotel for us. But not to be discouraged, we then had an opportunity to acquire a building on Cairo Road, which was former Barclays Bank Mutaba House. It had been on the market for a long time, and nobody had shown any interest in it, so we acquired it with the idea of turning it into a hotel, which we did. And along the way of converting it, everybody came to me and said, "No, what are you doing? Nobody's going to go to Cairo Road, nobody's going to stay there, nobody wants to have a hotel on Cairo Road." But, you know, from the way we saw it, we saw that there was a market. Despite all my friends telling me there wasn't, in the end there was, and we built, that was our third hotel. And that hotel was very successful from the day we opened it, because there is a lot of business on Cairo Road, and you know, it was a good place to. There's many city centre hotels around the world, and there's no reason why a hotel in a city centre shouldn't enjoy reasonable business. So from there, we now have 3 hotels. We managed to secure a site at Arcades to build our 4th hotel, which is Protea Hotel Lusaka. We then opened up built a hotel in Livingston, Protea Livingston, then went to Chipata. From Chipata, we came back and built the Tower Hotel at Arcades, the 2nd hotel, because there was a lot of demand in that area. And at the end of next month, we open our 8th hotel in Ndola. So that puts us as the largest hotel operators in Zambia, from humble beginnings some 15 years ago. We are now the largest operators, with 8 hotels and about 50 rooms in the country. So that was how we developed the hotel side of the business. Many challenges along the way, many frustrations. It wasn't all plain sailing, but we learned a lot in doing this. We learned how we had to deal with banks, financiers. We learned, you know, how to run hotels, how to be a major player in the hospitality sector. So yeah, it was a big learning experience for us, and we're very committed to our hotel business, and we intend to grow it more in Zambia.
Amazing. So I've heard that you're also into other ventures other than the hotels. What else do you do?
Every time a new opportunity comes along, we have a view that we should look at it. We were, in about 2000, we had this opportunity to develop the site in Arcades. So Manda Hill had just been built, and we had access to the site there, and we thought, well, let's build another shopping mall, you know. But, you know, we looked at the market, and Mandeville was new and didn't seem to be too much business around, so we didn't do too much at the time. We then went and redesigned it. We thought, well, let's make it an office park. We redesigned it. We thought, well, let's test the market. We went out to see if there was any interest, you know, for offices in that area. And there wasn't. So we went back to the drawing board. We said, well, what could we do with this site, you know? So we thought, well, let's try and do something a little bit different. Let's try and have entertainment alongside shopping, you know, because Mandeville only had shopping. And we looked around. We said, well, you know, there's no cinemas in Lusaka to speak of. The ones that were there had fallen into a bad state, so we thought, well, let's look at building cinemas, and let's look at putting more restaurants there, and let's try and have a bit of a diversified shopping mall. So we redesigned it, and we started working on building it. And of course, there was a lot of skepticism. You know, people will never go to the cinema in Lusaka. It's like, well, you know, in other cities in the world, people go to the cinema. Why should Lusaka be different? So, you know, we opened up with cinemas there. We built the cinemas. I'm sure most people have been to those cinemas. They're excellent cinemas. And, you know, we brought to Lusaka a new enthusiasm for people wanting to go to the cinema. We created restaurants there. At the time, there weren't that many restaurants in Lusaka. It's not like today where there's more than 200 restaurants in Lusaka. But in those days, there were very few restaurants. So we decided, let's have a restaurant wing. We'll get 4 restaurants side by side and create some sort of atmosphere, you know, with the restaurants. And again, people told us, no, there's no demand for restaurants. People in Lusaka don't want to go to restaurants, you know. So there's always skepticism. You know, people are very quick to tell you that, you know, don't venture and do this, you know, because it won't work. But I think we were maybe stubborn, and we pursued that. And we opened up arcades with the cinemas, with the restaurants. The entertainment side was successful, but on the retail side we had lots of challenges to begin with. It wasn't a buoyant market. We struggled to find tenants. But, you know, we stuck at it, we focused, we worked at it. I mean, we worked at it day and night, and, you know, eventually things came right, and, you know, it became a very successful shopping mall. So, yeah, that's one of the other things we've done. We also have a division in the company that's we do building construction, a company called Velos Enterprises, and that's a family business. It's myself and my 2 brother-in-laws. And we're a contracting company. My father-in-law started it many years ago. And, you know, eventually my brother-in-law took over as the CEO of the business. And one of the things we do is we've built shopping malls, we've built commercial property, we've done all sorts of construction all over Zambia. We've worked in every part of the country. You know, so we're a very diversified company. You know, we've done many things.
You have a lot of experience. What would you say are some of the attributes that have made you successful, especially for Zambians who want to, the startups or those who are already entrepreneurs and they're struggling?
Look, I think when I was younger and I tried to deal with the banks and financial institutions, trying to get support, getting people to believe in my ideas and the vision I had, I found it extremely frustrating, I have to tell you. I mean, you go from bank to bank, they tell you, give me a business plan, give me a proposal, give me this, you know. And frankly, they look at it, they tell you, we'll get back to you, you wait 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then they tell you no, you know. Or they write you a letter through the post, no, you know. And it took me a long time to figure out, how do you convince these institutions to believe in you? How do you convince other people your suppliers, your customers, how do you convince them to have faith and confidence in what you're doing? And when you're young, it's difficult because you haven't got a track record, you know. So you have to somehow start building up a track record, even in the smallest possible way, you know. And I think one of the main attributes that we believed in was that whatever commitment we made, we would honour it at whatever cost. So if we borrowed money, we would meet our repayment schedule, even if we ourselves didn't get paid, so that we could create the confidence necessary for people to continue supporting us. And I think when you're young, it's very difficult, and you have all the bills that you have to pay. I think we've all been there. You look at all the things you have to service, and now you have to prioritize who gets what.
Okay, my name is Posilunga. I'm an entrepreneur. Started a business about 9 months ago. Yeah, it's a pleasure to hear you speak, Mark.
Thank you.
I think I look at you and say, okay, these are people who've made it, or making things big in Zambia. I have a lot of questions. Maybe I'll just speak to yeah. My first one is, despite all the skepticism that you received as you're trying to make all those decisions, what made you, for that age, the decisions that you made? And second, since I have a lot of questions, I want to find out, and I want you to be very frank. Are you open to, have people come to you, especially us who are starting starting businesses, come and get advice? One thing that we are struggling with right now is mentorship. So if you are open for that, I want to know so that... so it's only good to learn from the best, not yeah. So I want to know whether you're open for that, so that probably you can have access to your wisdom. Thank you.
Listening to what people tell you, and adjusting your ideas to sort of fit in with the advice you get. And sometimes as an entrepreneur it's hard. It's like, I've got this idea and everybody's telling you, no, let's go this way. And it's hard to sometimes take on board some of this advice. So I think it's just this desire that, that one day you're going to succeed, that keeps you going, And I think when you actually, even if you have a moderate amount of success, you get a real buzz out of it. You reach a real high, You have many lows as well, but, just have something moderately successful, you think, wow, that was fantastic. Let me do a little bit better. And, it's that chance that you're going to have, that sort of high every now and again that you seek after, I think. Do I mentor people individually? I'd have to say no to that because I get literally hundreds of requests. What I rather do is speak at events like this. And for example, Nyamuka Zambia is a program out there that I provide support to. To help young entrepreneurs, and through those kind of programs they provide training and try and help people to reach the next level in their business. Although it's a business competition, there's a lot to be learned out of a program like that.
Well, most of the people here will be entrepreneurs. Probably haven't even reached the level you are at, but already from the way they will behave, it says a lot about us. How do you handle them? Because I haven't seen any bodyguard with you.
I think it's always good to try and be humble, and be humble towards people. It's not to surround yourself with bodyguards and cut yourself off from the rest of the world. I don't think that's a good thing. I know people do it, and there's different circumstances, But I think fortunately in Zambia we don't have some of those problems, But look, as your business grows, I think more and more people want to talk to you. When you're successful, you've got lots of friends, but when things go wrong, let me tell you, there's no friends. So, people want to come and talk to you. They want to go and do business with you. And I think that's where you have to prioritize, and you have to then delegate responsibilities to people within your organization who can handle those things. So that, you've always got a reasonable amount of time to do the things you have to do and do them properly. And then to trust the people you delegate. You delegate them with responsibilities that they're going to do them and follow up with them to make sure they get done. And it's a big thing in business to trust somebody to look after your money and to look after your customers or whatever you give them the responsibility to. I mean, at the beginning you're an entrepreneur, you're doing everything. You're looking after the money, you're looking after the customers, you're looking after the stock, you're looking after everything. And then to cede that responsibility and then start trusting people. It's like letting go. It's not easy to do that.
Looking at the level at which you've grown your business, I'm assuming you've put a lot of time and hours into that. I want to find out, how do you strike a balance between your work and your family life? Because I'm assuming you put a lot of hours into your work life.
The lines become blurred, and you have to look at it from more of a point of view that it's a lifestyle, and you have to make time within that lifestyle for your family and for the things that you want to do. But at the end of the day, even when you go on holiday, you still have the responsibility of your business, so you never actually get away from it. So you just have to manage things in a different way. You just don't stop at 5 o'clock. That just doesn't happen, you know.
I want to share with us how you've managed especially the banking financing. I went to a bank trying to get a loan for about 100,000 put into the business. But what I found was the interest is so high that if I got that money, the likelihood that that money I won't be able to pay back. How do you manage that part of getting the money and managing to pay back the bank? Because interest in Zambia is very, very, very high.
You know, they're not conducive to businesses or to Zambians who want to build homes for themselves and so on. It is just not conducive, and we're in an environment that borrowing money is probably the worst thing you can do at this point in time. And then at one point in the 1990s, interest rates got up to 200% and 300%. You know, so but as I say, 40%, it's very difficult. I mean, even big companies can't afford it, let alone little companies. I mean, we're all in the same boat here. So I think the thing at the moment is, how do you do things and find alternative sources of finance from friends and family, from suppliers, and so on. You know? And then getting, you know, what is the type of business? How can you turn things over quickly, you know, to generate the profits that you need to pay back quickly.
Let me say, you have answered part of my question, but I still really want to find out, in terms of the financing, now take the banking side or the financial institution aside. I want you so much to draw on how can you gain investor confidence so that these other guys who are around there, the big shots like you, let me say, I come up with an idea and I believe this is bankable, and maybe have 20% to finance that business. But I need other investors instead of the banking institution that we have currently. If you look at the monetary policy that we have currently, it's quite tight. If I'm to go to a financial institution and get that finance, I'll fail to manage my business. And it will be more like I'm just working for the bank itself. Now, I want you to draw so much, and also I want you to mention the kind of tenants that you have attained, your business tenants that you have attained, which you normally use to convince the financiers to finance your business. And another question that I have is on your business strategies. You said that you once went into more like a slum in terms of the Chingola Hotel itself. What change management strategies did you put across, and there was business strategies to make sure that that business that you had, which you almost sold, wasn't cobbling the profits you are making from the other investment that you had? Thank you.
Use that as a means of you know, convincing a financial institution or another investor that you are going to do what you say you're going to do. And I think that's a very important thing, is that there are investors out there, but they want to be convinced by you that A, you know what the business is about, B, that you will do what you say you're going to do, and C, that you won't let them down. And if you can do those three things, it helps in leveraging the finance that you need. So in our case, we had a hotel that was only 2% occupancy. It was costing money. We were having to take funds from other businesses to keep this going. But as I said, we never let the banks down. We made every payment on the due date, and we paid our workers every month on the due date. They were never let down. So they believed in us, and we believed in them. And I think that's the kind of relationship that you need to have with your financier, your co-investor, and so on. There must be trust. You know, there's a lot of people out there that think it's clever to go and rip off a bank. You know, no, I made some money in the bank. You know, it's not clever at all. It's not clever. What's clever is to work with these institutions, with other co-investors, and build success, and keep building on that success. That's what's clever. Not to try and just rip somebody off. I mean, you rip somebody off, you'll never do another deal ever. You know, people talk and they share ideas. So it's to get your credit rating, you know, to be exceptional and people to trust you. You know, you go to a supplier, you know, and you ask the supplier, give me 30 days credit. At the end of 30 days, go and pay him. So it gives you a little bit of money. You know, it gives you 1,000 kwacha on credit. You know, and then you, at the end of the month, you pay it. And then next month say, well, can I have 1,500? And go and pay it. And they will trust you, you know. Suddenly you're a good customer because you always pay on the date. And then people begin to respect you. And they don't want to hear stories, oh, I can't pay this month because I had school fees and this and that. Immediately that happens, they lose confidence.
At the time you were starting out as a startup, in order to support your business, to ensure that it's, you know, you have the necessary support that will get your business to grow and to get to the next level. What type of support was lacking and that you wish you had at the time?
I think if I'd had the opportunity to talk to people who knew about these things, maybe I could have done things quicker. Instead of so much trial and error. A lot of what you do in business is trial and error. And it would have been nice to have access to that kind of knowledge from people who could say, look, you know, do the business plan in this way and this way. And learn to ask questions. I mean, I think when you're younger, too often you just say, oh, well, they said no, that's the end of it. Learn to ask questions, you know. I've learned these days you never stop asking questions. You know, when people tell you something, question them. Understand what they're telling you. And I think if somebody had said that to me earlier, it would have been very useful to me. You know, to understand why I wasn't getting the support that I thought I should have been getting. But yeah, I think education, or maybe education is the wrong word, but the transfer of knowledge is what would have been probably the most useful for me.
I like how Mike is saying ask the questions. Please ask the questions.
My name is Mwawa Mtalian. You talked about somebody trying and trying and trying and you keep going, and how entrepreneurs give up when they're about to succeed. And they usually opt to say, let me go and find a job, which is the easy way out. Well, for me, I look at it from an angle to say, when I walk in a bank and say I want to borrow money, they look at me. First of all, I came by bus, I don't have a car. And they say, bring collateral. Now, where do I get the collateral from? My father is a civil servant. He has got nothing. He's just renting a house. So you can't even put he doesn't even have nothing. So second is, there is that moment between the time when a business is formed to the time when it becomes profitable. You talked about people giving up. It's because, from my experiences, you can keep a little money to say, wow, I struggle, this money will keep me going. But you can only keep so far. To say the truth, most Zambians are born into humble backgrounds, and they don't have anything from the family to keep them going as they are pushing. So you find that you are married and your wife is waiting for results. You can't keep saying I'm pushing. So pushing, I think pushing has a limit, because even if I stop work today, I can have a little money in the bank. Maybe I might feed for 6 months, and the business is not going well. So you talked about people running away to find a business. I think it's because of where most people are coming from, the backgrounds we have. Once you are past a certain age, you can't go back to your parents' house and say, look, my business is not okay, let me stay for some time. So during that moment of waiting, how do you advise somebody? What do they do? Because money runs out. At least you are the farm in Samba to start from. I'm not trying to go, but most third generation whites usually have something. You know, that's why us as black people, we have to exercise a lot of discipline, because we are born with nothing, and if you're not disciplined, you end up going nowhere. We don't have a farm in Samba, not even a plot in Tendere. So